You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hi, Melanie. Thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's great having you on, Melanie. And I just wanted to ask, and it's a question I ask everybody, and that is, how did you start in the film industry?
Oh, God. It's, I'm 6 feet tall. And, I started out modeling, I moved to acting, and I do think that my height was absolutely a detriment. So, I think I knew from when I was itty bitty that I wanted to, the arts were where, what blew my skirt up, but it took me a while to get around to it. I think I started modeling, when I was like 20, which is actually kind of old in model terms. Finally turned my attention to acting, and, it was like I'd come in to read for producers, quite a lot, and they'd never hire me. And I think a lot of it had to do with being taller than the leading men. So that's when I started producing my own content, and and that even is a struggle. There is I do think there is this. I think it's tougher for taller women, and I'm the other tall women that I've spoken to that are in the industry. It has been a common theme that they struggle as well. And then add to that I don't. Well, actually, let me be really bold about it. I completely suck at selling the victim, which is usually the roles that are available to women. So, it was one of those where, for a long time, our interest, me and my teammates, we liked strong female leads, and we liked women in action. And, after running into so many obstacles with it, we were like, screw it, let's start a festival. And, it's like, if we want to see more of this stuff in the world, then we'll create a place for it to play. And that brings us all the way to the festival. And I didn't mean to jump that far ahead.
No, it's no problem.
Yeah.
But you were talking about auditioning, and I did read your bio, and you were a former basketball standout, correct?
Yeah, I used to play Well, I grew up playing sports, and I still play sports. So, but yeah, no, I don't. I guess you could say I have a lot of Mars energy. I think that's the best way. That warlike nature. Yeah, that's me.
So when you were modeling and you entered the age around 20, what were some of the experiences there? And was it anything similar to when you started doing acting? Did you find any parallels between the two?
Actually, it was just stellar irony, because I started modeling here in California, and at the time, the majority of the industry here was the swimsuit industry, because everyone goes, oh, well, models need to be tall. Well, for the swimsuit industry, they hire these itty-bitty chicks, and I didn't fit that either. So I think my timing has just been kind of sucky. And then I went to Europe, and I did okay there. I wound up coming home, and I hung up my modeling shoes for reasons I don't even think I remember clearly. And I think it was about 3 years later that I started banging on the door, in terms of acting.
So when you went to your first audition, what were some of your memories from there? Actually, I mean, you were just saying, since you're 6 foot tall, you're taller than some of the leading men. So when you were going to some of these auditions or maybe some of these casting calls, what were some of your experiences there? Did anyone say anything about your height, or did what was some of your experiences there? That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no. Well, they can't say anything about your height.
No, I don't. I was just wondering if they
Right.
maybe said like, "Oh wow, Melanie, you're tall" or anything like that.
No. Well, it's typically on your resume, your height is there. So I mean, if they were surprised when I showed up, that was for their lack of reading because it was right out in front. But I would get a lot of calls for the dumb athlete, or I actually got cast in a Sunkiss commercial because I was big enough to tackle a guy. Stuff like that. So while I don't consider height a specialty, I think the film industry might. That's just like anyway. Yeah, no, I got odd stuff, and and I did get the auditions for victims and such, and honestly, I suck at it. I can try. I can spend weeks in preparation. I don't think I will ever sell the victim well.
Well, I wanted to, as we talk about, auditions and stuff, I wanted to ask about Hannah's Gift, and you were the lead actress in the horror action film Hannah's Gift, and you also won Best Actress at the Film Festival. So, when you auditioned for that, was there, I'm going to take, I haven't seen the film obviously, but were you taller than leading man? Was there, I actually want to hear about that film.
Well, I didn't have to audition for that because I produced it.
There you go.
So, yeah, no, that's, but, was I? Yes, I was taller than the men that were cast in it. But that's usually, I wasn't. It wasn't like they were itty bitty, which does happen in a lot of cases. But I was probably an inch taller than the guy that was in it. It doesn't show, but I knew that, and honestly, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I love coming across people that don't care, because the bottom line of it is just as there are tall men out there, there are short men, there are tall women, there's short women. It's like we're going to be all over the place. And then this idea that the leading man is always supposed to be taller than the female is confusing to me, because the only thing that I think that it offends is the male ego.
Yeah, and I can, I understand perfectly what you mean, and I want to talk more, about Hannah's Gift, and you mentioned you were a producer on the film. Now I'm interested in hearing, about the whole producing aspect of this, because I always like to hear about actors who get into, screenwriting and producing, because what you're doing is, you're making your own opportunities, which I think is absolutely golden. I think that is so imperative, that, not, everybody should be out there, trying to make their own opportunities, and at the same time looking at other projects. So that way you always have, almost like a fallback plan, or having, multiple irons in the fire, so to speak. So when you're producing, Hannah's Gift, where did you step in as the producer? Did you meet with the director and the writer and sort of, say, hey, I could actually help produce this?
No, actually, well, yes and no. The writer-director is, we've been producing content together for a long time. And he wrote strong female leads, long before it was popular. And, so I met him. And the reason why we got on so well is because we had a similar taste. But, I mean, he writes absolutely beautiful female characters. And so, no, when we went forward to produce it, I didn't step in and offer. It was something that he and I actually steadfastly planned out, of for the resources that we had and the projects that we had. It was the best one to produce, because, when you get into low budget production, you can't do an epic fantasy on a micro budget. That's just the simple truth of it. So you have to choose the project that you can pull off the best with the resources that you have. And, in terms of actual production, I mean, I did everything from, planning all of it to carrying the trash out on set. It's one of those where if you are going to produce, your own content unless you're showing up to the table with a decent budget. You're going to bust your ass.
Yeah, it's true. It's actually true, Melanie. You as a producer, when you're producing stuff, independent film, and stuff, with small locations, a smaller crew, everyone does have to play multiple roles, wear multiple hats, and that's something I've been doing it. Things that I learned up along the way is that hey, even if you're a producer, you gotta figure out how to get from point A to point B. And what I mean by that is hey, someone's got to go out there and wave the pizza guy down. Someone's got to go out there and make sure these guys are coming on the set at the right time. But you're also got to do something else at the same time. So it's like juggling constantly to make sure that engine, so to speak, of the film is constantly moving.
Yes. No, for me, it's like I don't do. Some people are very comfortable sitting, and I'm probably the most A-type personality I've ever met. It's like I do better when I'm actually in motion. So for me, acting and producing, I don't think is wearing too many hats. On set, it's a little bit difficult, but your pre-production, there are a few things that I can do on set, and then in post, post is where probably the bulk of my experience actually lends the most to anything, because it's like I have a lot of post-production skills. I edit, I do sound effects. I'm pretty much a one-stop post house. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I can do with footage.
So, did you do any of the post-production work for Hannah's Gift?
I did. I didn't edit it. No, we had several editors, and we actually went through a mountain of editors for the film, because it was told from the conceit of the film is that it's in real time, and it's told from the point of view of one of the characters, which is actually really difficult to pull off in terms of a production. But the second thing is that when we started, interviewing editors, we would explain ad nauseum, how we wanted the film to be edited. And I'm not joking. I think 5 different editors tried to cut it as a standard film. And, it was just one of those where it wasn't landing. So we went through a lot of editors. Ultimately, our masters got destroyed. So we wound up shooting the film a second time. And that's when I was able to bring the appropriate crew to the table and finish it.
So Melanie, that's really interesting and heartbreaking to hear. So how did your masters get destroyed?
My guess is, it was interesting. Nobody wanted to start with the ingested footage. Everybody wanted to start from scratch. I'll ingest the footage, and literally the tapes just suffered. I'll bet money somebody had a deck that was out of calibration, and it stretched the tape.
So when you learned that you had to reshoot the movie again, what was the first thing that came through your mind?
It's funny. I sweat the small stuff in life. That one I wasn't like up in arms over it. But, pretty much, I think it was like a month after we learned that the masters had been destroyed, we were actually producing the film for a second time, because the stuff just wasn't fixable. We would have had, all kinds of artifacts in the footage.
Yeah.
It was just easier to reshoot it.
That's something similar, somewhat similar to what happened to me. I had a editor who I gave. We shot on actual SD cards, and we gave him all the footage, and that was my first mistake. I should have kept a copy for myself. And what happened was he took the footage, he started to edit it, and then basically he had a bunch of problems with his business partners, and basically stopped working on everything. Well, his laptop started to go all wonky, and he was asking people for money to fix it. And I said to him, well, do you still have the footage? And he said yes. And I said, well, I need to get that back, so I'll chip in some money. Well, he comes back to me finally about a couple weeks later, and he says, well, I couldn't raise any money. All I had, and this laptop's just about to die, and this, that, and the other thing. So I kept hounding on him to get me back this footage, and he never would respond to calls. And then one day he just deleted me off Facebook, and I actually sent him an email, and I said, you're lucky that I don't hold you accountable for that lost footage. And he didn't respond back to that. And about a month or so after that, some people also said that he had gotten them into trouble because he had taken on like wedding videos, and he hadn't edited any of it. He just sat on the footage, and people were, different brides were asking, hey, where's my footage at? And he just let it all sit. And I don't think that guy works in the film industry anymore.
Yeah, no, with a reputation like that, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I tend to be a little bit more old school about editing. It's like I don't do anything on a laptop. I'm, strictly desktop based. And one of the reasons why is it's just more stable.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Melanie. When you reshot it,
yeah.
did you use that? I mean, like you said, you sweat the small stuff, and that you took a lot better. Did you look at it as a sort of like a way to say, okay, now I can sort of change any problems I had before, or maybe I could fix any issues that arise before?
Fuck yeah! No, anything you shoot, you are going to have an extraordinary learning curve, and and you get to cringe through post, beating yourself over the head with how come I didn't think of this at that time, and so. By shooting the film a second time, yes, we absolutely came up with a better finished product. It was, I have to say, if you don't learn, if you have the opportunity to learn from your mistakes and you don't, well, yeah, ouch. Anyway, no, but we learned a lot in shooting it the first time. So when we shot it the second time, it was literally the same story. But we did it a little differently, and but it took a long time. It was, like I said, it's one of those where, I can look at something, and if somebody explains it to me, it's like I try to ask enough questions to really get a firm grip of what they are looking as their end product. And having gone through, I think we wound up going through a total of 7 editors on that project. And it was just mind-numbing to me where, you just see them, yes, you, when you explained it. But then when you started getting your first cuts back, you're like, wow, you didn't, or it was, and it's one of those where I have a hard time believing it was so far, out of the ordinary that someone just couldn't digest it, but that's literally what happened. So.
Yeah, it's... I've experienced that too, where some editors, and particularly one I was talking about, was saying things like, "Oh yeah, I understand exactly what you mean," and then you get it back, and you say, "Wait a minute, that's nothing what I wanted. This is completely wrong." And I usually find that's why that is one regard where I think emails, like anytime I would talk to him, whether it be in person, because we actually had him in person too, come down, and we were talking to him about edits, right? And we had a big whiteboard in front of us, and we're marking it up, and we're saying, okay, let's do this and this and this, and we marked it all down, and then I sent him an email of everything we talked about, and then when we saw the edit about a week or two later, it was completely wrong, and I'm sitting there going, was I not clear? And then I look back at the email, and I say to myself, well, no, I can see that I told him this. It's just, either they didn't understand, or they didn't read it, or they, or were just trying to basically reinvent the wheel.
Well, yeah, and I have come across editors who think they know better. And it doesn't matter if you know better than the person that is standing there. If someone is paying you to edit something, give them what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. And because I've seen plenty of people who like to kind of, direct from the editing chair, which you can do. And, but it's also one of those where I also take, what's clear to me, if I was communicating to myself and I consider something clear, it doesn't necessarily mean it's clear to anyone else but me. So even if, as I express it, I could be saying, well, the sky is blue, and they could be hearing that the sky is green. And, those kinds of communication breakdowns occur all the time, especially when you are trying to breathe life into something that's not average or typical.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's very true. And, that's why there's an old saying, Melanie, by Sun Tzu, the guy who wrote the Art of War. It's basically, if the communication breaks down, it's the fault of the commander to the generals, and basically if he checks that out, but the instructions have been clear, then it must be the general's fault. It's something along the lines. I always butcher sayings here, by the way, on this podcast, but it was something. it was something like that, and basically, he was telling a story that communication is always the first person who uses the communication, who is that communication's from. They should always assume that this is not clear to anybody but me, or this is maybe not clear to everybody else. So if there's ever a miscommunication, I should go back to myself first. But if it is clear, then it is the fault of that person. And obviously in warfare, that's he was talking about making sure that troop movements were okay. In our world of filmmaking, we have to make sure communication is key, because it's moving crews around, it's moving actors around, and also it's instructions on editing a final piece.
Yeah. No, it's a tough job. Producing is not simple at all. And, unless until you make it into, the area of the industry where, you've got a decent budget, you're going to be understaffed. And, that means it's like the thing that you give up without money, you're going to spend time.
Mm-hmm.
And, but no, it's a fun ride. It's an absolutely fun ride.
So when you finally got the second, you finally shot the movie for a second time, and you got the final edit down the way you wanted to. So did you go about submitting to certain festivals, or did you have certain festivals targeted for the film?
Well, yeah, no. Sometimes, what. This sounds like a harsh judgment of myself, but it really isn't. It's more of a humorous one. It's like sometimes I feel like I have idiot stamped on my forehead. Because the thing that you've got to realize with anything that is not a drama, comedy, or a documentary, most film festivals are not geared to ingest that content unless it's a specialty festival. And so people make things that are a little unusual or a little off the beaten track, and it is more difficult to get those types of films placed in any festival.
Yeah, as there's more submissions to various festivals. I know it is. The marketplace gets a little more crowded, and it's a little harder to stand out, so to speak. And you actually won for Best Actress at the Indie Fest Film Festival. So were you in attendance to collect that award?
No, actually, I wasn't. We actually we won Audience Choice at Shocker Fest. I think we collected a total of 4 or 5 awards for that film, and it was funny because, it was kind of I'm not answering your question, and I don't mean to not answer it, but I was going to distract with something else. So I get, when I submitted us to Shocker Fest, and then I get the rejection notice, and like a week later they're saying, hey, you've been, or you've been selected to screen at this. And I write them this kind of snippy email back saying, hey, you just told me I didn't get in. So what's the real story here? So I think what happened was they had something that they picked had fallen out, and so they were taking an alternate. And it was one of those where I don't think the people who ran the festival were particularly fond of the film, but they were absolutely shocked when we won Audience Choice. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those where even if it's one of the reasons that we started the festival. It's like because a lot of the content that we play is not going to show at a lot of other festivals, because those festivals, if you just look at the whole festival world and what gets played, genre films are not what they play.
So, since we were going to talk about now about the Artemis Film Festival, what was sort of the impetus to start that? Was it just to show those films, like you just said, just to show films that wouldn't get shown anywhere else? Or sorry, I shouldn't say certain genres that wouldn't get shown at certain festivals. I should say. Actually,
more to the point is that I have had a long-standing belief that women in action is a very lucrative thing, and every few years or so you'll see, shit come out from the studios where they say that women in action is box office poison. I don't remember if you, do you remember that film Aeon Flux that starred Charlize Theron?
Uh-huh.
Well, that did not do very well. And I remember at the time, at that time, I was, very much into studying box office revenues and what stuff was earning. And hands down, for many years, action is the best-selling genre of films above anything. And, and it's one of those where we have probably almost 5 decades where we have a smattering of films that feature women in action, and there's always some excuse not to make more. And when Aeon Flux, the last time I saw it in the trades, where they're saying, oh, women in action is box office poison, was right around Aeon Flux. And, it was like, a few years prior to that, you'd see comments here and there. But now we're seeing, especially in the last, 3 or 4 years, we're seeing a tide change. And if you look on TV, you've got an extraordinary number of shows that feature, pretty empowered women and female characters, a lot of women in action. And so that market is there. But if you look at it's one of those where I think the biggest impetus, there was 2 impetuses for the festival. One was to create a space for the content to play. And 2 is to prove that there's an extraordinary audience for it. Because, it's like we get films from 25 countries around the globe almost every year. We have a worldwide audience. Our social media fans are all over the world. So it's like this isn't something that is just interesting to a certain group of the population in a certain area of the world. It's all over. I mean, our first year we actually had it was an animated film. It was claymation from Iran. And, so of all places in the world, we're literally taking in content from Iran where they are celebrating the strength of the female of the species, which is really kind of ironic. And, it's like because of the festival, we get extraordinary pieces of history for, women that a lot of people don't know about. That's really cool, too. I mean, odd fact, did you know that the winningest basketball team in all of written history is a women's basketball team out of Texas? I think they were called the Flying Queens, and I think they played from like 19, it was like the mid 50s through I can't remember the year stretch it is, but it started in 1956, I think, and they have literally the winningest basketball record in all of history. Nobody knows about this. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, when we showed it at the festival, nobody knew it. It was interesting last year. We had a couple of articles written by people. They were published during the festival, but they were published by people who actually showed up to a few of the screenings and events that we had. And, it was really awesome to see them write, wow, I had no idea, but these are things that should be widely available. Then they're not. And it should be widely available, not just because we're sitting here going, oh, it's time to pay attention to women, but because they're part of our history. And they're out there and nobody knows about it. So, so it's like when you talk about women in action, you're going to be talking about, women in sports, military, narrative, obviously, of any genre. But it's like you're in in the military stories we get, they're jaw-dropping. Because you don't realize how much women have actually contributed to, military efforts all the way back to World War II. We've showed films about, the first ladies that actually ever flew aircraft for the military, and they would even test the shit for the guys to fly. And, and so they had these, amazing few years of flying airplanes and having this incredibly adventuresome life. And then when the men came back to war, they were, told to go back home and cook for their kids.
Yeah, there's also a history of in World War II. There's a history of female fighters, and when the Nazis invaded in 1941, there was women were fighting alongside the battlefield, and they actually were pilots. I think they were called there was actually a pilot group called the Witches or something like that, and it was they were basically flying these old-fashioned planes, but they were because they were taking on the invading Nazi force.
Yeah, weren't they the Witches out of Russia?
Yeah, but I think there was a name. I think it was something Witches. I can't remember, but I'll link to that in the show notes, everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you are correct. And then for the U.S., you had the WASPs, and they were the Women Air Force Service pilots, I believe. We actually were lucky enough to have a 93-year-old WASP at the festival for one of our Warrior Women panels last year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did a lot of people, ask her about the war?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, and it was literally, I think it was late last year, they actually finally started getting death benefits for these ladies that died in service. Because during that period of time when these women were flying, because they were flying back and forth, or some of them were stationed in Europe, but they basically just did a lot of supply flying and other types of flying for the U.S. And if one of their if one of the lady pilots died in service, the ladies literally collected money between themselves to actually bring their bodies back. Wow. Because the U.S. government wouldn't pay for it, and they literally I think it was late last year where they actually got that. I think they got the law to change so that their death benefits were covered. I mean, some of the stuff. Some of the stuff is mind-numbing, and people need to know about it.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's very fascinating, and and again, I'm looking at some of the people that you've had at the festival, some of the honorees. You've had Zoe Bell, you've had Yancey Butler, and you've even had Paul Feig on some of the honorees.
Yes,
that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, and this year, and there's more to announce, but this year we have Tom Cruise, Nichelle Nichols, who was Lieutenant Uhura in the first Star Trek. So, this lady literally broke so many barriers by playing that role. It's, to recount that would take a moment, so I won't bore you with the gory details. And then we have some absolutely fantastic stunt ladies and one stunt guy, Andy Armstrong, who is Andy Armstrong is probably one of the top second unit action directors for, big budget blockbuster films. And he happens to be an extraordinary supporter of female stunt women. He actually hires a lot of them, which is really cool. Jennifer Caputo, who's been a stunt woman for more than 2 decades, and she does all kinds of wacky shit. And then Tammy Baird, who's she does an amazing body of stunt work as well, but she does the best car hits you can imagine. So, I mean, she literally, steps out in front of a car in high heels and a doily for a dress and lets the car hit her. And then there's, there's one more person, and I'm totally spacing it off. I feel like an idiot. But
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, Melanie. Every time I do this podcast, my brain stops working. I swear to God.
Yeah, but no, I mean, we have this year. We'll have some amazing honorees, and we actually have a couple of other announcements coming down the pipeline that are going to be pretty juicy too.
That's fantastic, and I mean, and you also have some great media partners. You have Film Inquiry, you have Inktip, you have Action Movie Freak. That's actually a question I wanted to ask is, are you at a position now where like different partners pitch you? You know what I mean? So are they finding you out and saying, hey, Melanie's got the Artemis Film Festival. We should talk about sponsoring something here.
Yeah, no, okay. Just so you know, so our first 2 years of putting the festival on, we crowdfunded, and so we are a fan-backed festival, and our media partners to date are basically we basically do cross promotions because we benefit each other, and it's great to find people that you are proud to promote for the stuff that they do. But yeah, I think we are working on sponsorship, the actual dollar kind, which so we are working on that. But we will be crowdfunding again, probably starting right at the beginning of February.
So are you going to be crowdfunding through Indiegogo or Kickstarter?
We'll probably run on Indiegogo, which is where we've been the last 2 years. Although I am considering another crowdfunding platform for a few different reasons. But yeah, the last 2 years we've run on Indiegogo, and we generally call it the Women Kick Ass Project because that's our hashtag. And but it's kind of cool to be able to say, hey, we have a completely fan-backed festival, which is what we have.
Yeah, it is amazing to have a fan-backed festival. It really truly is, because that way, exactly, where it's, where the bread is buttered, so to speak. You know exactly what to, you know what I mean? Like there's no somebody pulling the strings behind the scenes, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
No, there's that, but also to me, the fact that it's fan based, we have a base of fans that are willing to literally financially get behind the production of the festival. It should speak loudly to the fact that people like women in action. Damn it, period. So, and we get backers from all over the place too. So. It's that part is, corporate sponsorship would make our life a lot easier. But I can't really express my gratitude, but also the for lack of better words, pride that our fans like us so much that they contribute to the production of the film festival. I mean. I plaster their names all over our website and I put them in our festival program because I want everyone to know.
And when is, it is 2017. When is the festival for 2017? Do you have a set date right now?
Yeah, we're going to be, our opening night is going to occur at the Aria in Los Angeles. It's a theater that's right near Wilshire and La Cienega in Beverly Hills. That'll be April 20th. And then the last 3 days of the festival, the 21st through the 23rd, will occur in Santa Monica at Lemley's on 2nd in Arizona.
And can people just go to ArtemisFilmFestival.com to buy tickets?
They can. They're not available for sale. What will happen is when we open up our crowdfunding, that's the first place screening passes will go up for sale. After that, obviously, they'll be available through Lemley as well as our website. And we have an extraordinary year coming. We have really astounding content to share. And, we'll have an extraordinary array of panels. We'll have our stunt woman panel. We'll probably have a warrior women panel. We are also going to put together probably a VR panel because virtual reality is an extraordinary burgeoning field that is wide open if women want to jump in.
Yeah, I've seen more filmmakers starting to, sort of dabble in VR, sort of putting their foot in the water, so to speak. Testing the waters out just to see, what it's all about. And I'm actually interested, to be honest with you, Melanie, about which way it's going to go. I could see on one hand VR going the way of something like 3D, where it works well in some areas, but most people sort of go back to the way we do things normally, or if it's going to be like sort of like the future where you just put on the VR headset and you can pretty much you can do go play video games, and then you switch and now you're watching a movie, and it's all that that VR immersive experience.
Yeah, one of the things that I get that is very interesting to me is as it comes to narrative, it will be very curious to me to see how that plays out, because we generally don't stand, and VR. If you're doing immersive VR, you've got a headset on, and whichever direction you turn, you have some view available to you, right? Which requires the ability to stand. I wonder if people will literally stand, let's say if it was a narrative film, you're looking at, somewhere between 90 to 120 minutes. I'm having a hard time seeing people stand to watch a movie like that.
Yeah.
So I do think, I am 100% certain VR is going to blow a lot of shit open. It's going to be, we're always, come on, look, every few years we're updating our technology. And so it's part of life. And that's just the way it goes, is things are going to change. People are going to be looking for the next best new, bigger, better, faster, more kind of a thing. And, I do think that, people will still continue to watch flatties, So I don't think, I just think it's going to be in another area of, the filmed moving image. But the other cool part about VR is some of the stuff that they're doing to actually make a difference, in terms of learning. There are people that I know that are developing programs for, empathy. They're doing all kinds of stuff. VR is a vast, vast world. And I think that, it's how it's getting used hasn't even been tapped. It's a brand new, wide open field.
Yeah, and again, I'm very interested to see which way it actually goes, and I wonder too if that will be just the new norm. I also wonder if that will be like the new way to go to work. Will literally just be like hey, I'm going to put on my VR headset and work remotely because we can have conferences remotely, and I can just put on my headset, or maybe I can even work through almost like actually in the VR world and using holograms and moving holograms around, or what have you. We're actually coming out, you know what I mean? Because again, now everything is so accelerated with tech. Like you said, every few years there's something new coming down the pike that sort of disrupts what was just disrupted.
Yeah. One of the things that I always look at with our technology is, the more we immerse ourselves into technology, the less we can be, not always, but the less we are available to, just basic human interaction. And so, it's a blessing curse kind of a thing, because the more disconnected we become from actual real life, that can cause some pretty big problems, but, tech is, it's an amazing tool. And, I think that we really need to use it wisely. It's no different than the messages that we create with our flat moving images. I think content creators have a responsibility, and I think they really need to take an extraordinary consideration of the messages that they're putting out into the world.
Yeah, very true. Very true, Melanie. So, Melanie, we've been talking for about 45 minutes now, and I wanted to ask, in closing, is there anything that we weren't able to discuss that you maybe wanted to talk about, or do you have any sort of closing thoughts for this whole conversation?
Wow, that's a tough question.
Yeah, it is. It's a very open-ended question. I usually ask that on purpose, because it can be anything, really.
Yeah, no, honestly, wow, we've talked about so much, but no, obviously, for people who like seeing empowered images on screen or just, literally badass women in action, hey, check us out. It's ArtemisFilmFestival.com. And, we love hearing from you people.
And I will link to that in the show notes, everybody. DaveBullis.com, where you can also follow me everywhere. I'm on all the social media channels, just like Melanie is. And, I'm getting really big into YouTube now, Melanie. I've realized, that's where I should have been. Well, I don't want to bore you with my whole.
No, if you don't mind, tell me. I want to hear this.
Okay, so about a few years ago, I had two opportunities to do web series on YouTube. Both were comedies. Both were like, one was like half hour, another one was like 10 minutes. I passed on both of them, and for a number of reasons. Well, now I kind of look back and I go, it just makes sense for me being in the film industry, me doing this podcast. I upload the podcast to YouTube as well, and what I'm trying to say out of all this is, I should have been in YouTube first, beyond Twitter, beyond Facebook, beyond Instagram, because it's more correlates more to what we do, and that's why I'm getting back into doing the YouTube stuff. And I actually switched channels about 2 years ago. I had one before where I would but it was like, it wasn't really filmmaking stuff. It was like random stuff I was throwing up there for different stuff. I was doing a lot of freelance videography work. Just a whole bunch of other stuff. So I finally closed down that channel, got this new channel. I upload pretty much every podcast episode on there, and slowly just try to grow more of an audience on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah, no, YouTube is the number 2 search engine behind Google.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I've known for a long time that YouTube is a very, very, very powerful platform, but it's also one of those where I have also been delinquent on YouTube.
See, we can both now, not be so delinquent anymore. We could both finally get up on YouTube and start, putting all of our stuff on there. Because honestly, I've had a lot of people find the podcast through YouTube. I've had people find some of my short films. I basically try to throw everything I could up there that I want people to see. Because I've made a few student short films that I weren't really that good at the end of the day. So I was like, I won't show this to anybody else.
Yeah, but you got to do it. You got to do them.
Yeah, and I just basically used them as a learning experience, and then basically was like, I'll never talk about this ever again.
I hear you. Well, we have I will make sure to check out your YouTube page. What's the name of it?
Real Iron Fist Films.
I would not have found that.
Yeah, it's everything else is Dave Bullis or the Dave Bullis podcast. Real Iron Fist Films is my film production arm type deal, and that's where I want to put all my films now, is just under that. And awesome. I'll link that in the show notes, everybody. I'll link to two short films I have on there. I have a zombie trailer on there that I shot in 2012. I actually produced it and co-wrote it. And it's slowly, I'm putting more and more stuff on there.
No, I'm definitely going to check it out. And well, obviously, if you ever produce content that's in our alley, I want to hear from you.
I will definitely let you know, Melanie. To be honest, I haven't produced anything really in since like 2014ish maybe, because I've actually been focused on more of writing in general and also this podcast. Every so often I would usually get an offer from somebody like to come on board a project, and I would usually just pass. But now I'm getting back into it, and I'm actually talking to some people right now about some stuff. But but yeah, I would definitely, if I ever do anything that that's has to do with action films and anything like that, I'm going to talk to you, Melanie.
Awesome. I look forward to it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh no, my pleasure's all mine. I want to say thank you for coming on, Melanie.
Oh yeah, no, it was fun. It was a blast.
Melanie, I want to wish you the best of luck with the Artemis Film Festival and everything you do.
Well, thank you, and ditto.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I'll be on your YouTube page.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna look for you there.
All right, cool.
All right, take care, Melanie.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cool. We are out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. I want to say thank you for coming on, Melanie, and I want to say thank you for reaching out. I want to say also, I think it was
Megan.
Megan, that's right. Yeah, who reached out. I got to send her a thank you note as well. Yeah, I'm always so happy to hear from filmmakers and film festivals, and just everyone out there actually doing stuff. There's too much. This is what I found, Melanie, is that so many people talk about making a film or doing this or doing that, but when they're actually out there doing it, it's just it's a whole different beast. And I realized that that no one who actually goes out there and does this, like does anything, like makes a film, does a film festival, those aren't normal people. Because normal is the people that sit on their couch talking about, I should make a movie, and you know what I mean. That's why I like meeting all different people who've actually gone out there and done it.
Yeah, no, it's an extraordinary education. It really is, and yes, the where the rubber meets the road is to stop talking and do.
Yeah, exactly. It's talk is cheap. And yeah, but I've been very fortunate, with just this podcast, and I've been able to meet a lot of really, really interesting people like yourself, and it's just been a great experience.
Yeah, no, and where are you located? You're on the East Coast, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, huh? Yeah, no. If ever I can help you with anything, give me a shout. But yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, Melanie, and the same goes to you. If I can ever be, help in any way, just let me know, and I will do my best.
Awesome. No, yeah, and what I'll do is once you get the, I don't know if you noticed, but on both of our web pages, we have links to pretty much any interview I do. So I'll put it up there, and then we'll also, once you give me the link, Megan, we are social media whores, so Megan will share the fuck out of it, but it'll also show up on our web pages as well.
Oh, excellent! I appreciate that, and yeah, I will make sure to email you when it's up, and you'll also see me promote it a lot. You'll see my tweets and stuff like that.
All right, cool. No, we'll be right in there with you. We do a weekly Twitter party, and we've done it for almost 2 years now. So it's mind-numbing, the amount of social media stuff that we do.
Melanie, while I'm thinking of it, do you know a guy named Rick Purse?
I don't.
Okay, because I remember him using the hashtag before, because he's a social media guru, and he does a lot of social media work. And I remember I saw him using that hashtag before. And
hashtag?
Yeah, I think
That's funny.
Because I think he was in a chat with you or chat with somebody else maybe, and he actually used that hashtag for maybe it was a blog post or something. But he promotes a lot of other people's stuff, so I see tons of hashtags and tons of stuff, and I just had a guy on the podcast who he knows from years ago, and he goes, "Oh, that's that guy I was telling you about," and I said, "Oh, like 2 or 3 years ago, okay." So it's just a small world,
And wait, tell me again, please, what his name is? Ron?
Rick.
Oh, Rick.
Yeah, Rick Purse.
And do you know how to spell the last name?
Yeah, just Purse.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'll have to ask Meg about him but we do. A lot of people use our hashtag, and it's like we also get a lot of celebrity retweets and shit too. So that might be one of the reasons why it's out. I mean, we've been using that hashtag for 3 years now. So 2 years, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to mention this to him too, because he'll hopefully he'll remember to retweet it. But yeah, he's always doing something. His Twitter handle, the one that I'm most familiar with, is @PhillyCyberGeek. But he tries to, he remains like anonymous on there. He doesn't, if you go there, his name's not Rick Purse on there. It's I think he just calls himself the Philly Cybergeek. But I'm sorry.
I'll check it out definitely.
Okay. Yeah, Rick's a good guy, and yeah. So when this is up, I'll let you know. It should be up in around 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, cool. Yeah, awesome. We'll definitely get on the band with sharing it.
Cool. I really appreciate that, Melanie. And by the way, I'm gonna check out Hannah's gift. I actually I see it's on Amazon Prime, which I actually have. So I'm gonna check that out.
At your own peril. Now it's one of those where it's a little dated. I would do it differently now than, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. The story is genius. It's very difficult for me to produce something and come out the other side liking it. You watch that shit 9 million times, and by the time it's done, you're like, I never want to see a frame of this footage again. Or that's the way it is for me. And so it has a lot of fans. People love it. I don't ever want to watch it again.
Well, I will make sure to check it out, though. I am going to check it out.
I appreciate
it. Melanie, I wish you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you very soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care.
Bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.